What happens if I got served and I missed it, or I had some official, stuff that was supposed to come to me and I missed it, and I miss a deadline, or I don't do something? What are the ramifications to the business owner?
But yeah, it could be kind of crazy. It's intimidating, I think, especially when you've got a sheriff coming into your office and serving papers, and that's one thing some clients do not want, is having the sheriff come in. Even if it's just a garnishment or something, you've got that intimidation of the sheriff coming in. And so he comes into our office all the time. It doesn't bother us, and we just accept it and send it on to the client.
Who are you here for? Good to see you again. Yep, one of those.
As long as he's not bringing me divorce papers, that's all.
Your landlord's got to be going, what are these guys doing here? The sheriff's always showing up.
Yeah.
Starting your route to retirement.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dean Barber, founder and CEO of Barber Financial Group, your host of the Guided Retirement Show. Kent Rockwell and Patrick Eyberg are our guests today. Kent started Universal Registered Agents, and when I first met these guys, I'm like, what the heck is a registered agent? And as I began to discover what was a registered agent, I thought, this is something that the listeners of the Guided Retirement Show need to know about. Why would I say that? Well, a lot of times when we have clients that are retiring, and people just like yourself, and one of them may be you leave your main profession and you go start a side business, and that side business becomes something that's successful. And having a registered agent for that business is something that's critical. Enjoy my conversation with Kent Rockwell and Patrick Eyberg. All right, Kent Rockwell, Patrick Eyberg, thanks so much for taking the time to provide some education to the listeners of the Guided Retirement Show. Kent, let's start with you. You founded Universal Registered Agents, and I want you to talk about what is a registered agent, first of all. I think a lot of times when people say they're going to retire, they don't necessarily retire. They may retire from what was a career, then they want to start their own business. And having a registered agent could be a critical part of starting that business. And it's really relevant to everybody that owns a business out there. So let's talk about what a registered agent does.
Yeah, a registered agent, the primary role is to really receive litigation on behalf of the company. So we're the address that would receive that litigation within the various states. So it's a state statute that is required when you form a corporation, and you have to list a registered agent. It could be a person such as yourself. It could also be a company like ours. And
so what's the downfall then of not having a company like Universal Registered Agents and just naming, say yourself, if you're a newly formed LLC and it's just you and maybe a couple of employees, why would I need, or why would somebody want to have a registered agent and not just say I'm the registered agent?
Well, really, there's a couple things. One, if they were to get their company established and they move, usually the last thing they think about is changing the registered agent address. And so they move, and then perhaps they were to get served process, and then if it doesn't get to them, they could have a default judgment set against them. So that's really the main thing, is you want to have an agent that will make sure you get the process delivered to you in a timely manner. So,
all right. So, Patrick, let's turn over to you here for just a minute. So you joined Universal Registered Agents here just a few months ago, really, right?
That's right, about 3 months ago.
All right. And so what is your role there at Universal Registered Agents?
So my role is Director of Partner Development. That's going out, currently working with the partners that we have in place that do kind of our corporate service work, and then also establishing new partnerships within that industry, and then also kind of looking outside of maybe some of those that we haven't kind of looked after. So maybe working with financial institutions, legal, law firms, kind of that space. Because a lot of the people that are going to start up businesses, that's kind of their first stop shop. Hey, let me go visit with this lawyer, this financial person, get all that, kind of situated, follow that process, and then they get to the point of actually filing for their LLC, and it comes up, hey, I need a registered agent. And they're kind of like, what is that? And that was one of the things that really surprised me, being new to the industry, is that this industry even existed. Hadn't really thought about it being out there, but knowing that it's a requirement by the Secretary of State, and that we're able to go through and actually help kind of this entrepreneur community, let them focus on building up a business, and then we kind of take care of this back end, the boring stuff. has been really fun to be a part of.
Nice. All right. So let's talk about you. You mentioned the term LLC, and Kent, this may be a question for you. So there's different types of corporations. You got your LLC, your limited liability corporation. Then you've got your subchapter S corporation. You got your sole proprietorship, and then you've got your C corporation. So is the registered agent something that's required only for an LLC, or does the subchapter S corporation and C corporation, do they have the same things?
No, actually, whatever type of company you want to set up, we're available. There's really some different points to each type of corporation. So like an LLC, you really have more anonymity, I guess is the right word for it, but you don't have to publish who the owners are on an LLC. You do have to publish the manager. S Corp, all the profits flow directly from the company to the owners. And C Corp, you have like really double taxation because the corporation has to pay taxes as well as the owners. So that's just kind of some of the differences, but we can definitely be the agent for no matter what type of company.
So all of those entities require a registered agent?
Correct.
Okay. So tell me a story about when something happened when somebody didn't have a registered agent.
Well, I guess one of the things that's really critical as part of having the registered agent is to keep your company current with the state, which means you have to file an annual report once a year. So if you don't file that annual report, your company will go into what's called bad standing with the state, and then all of your protection as a corporation is then lifted. So as an owner, if someone wants to sue you and you are not in good standing with the state, then your protection as a corporation is not there. So it's really important to file that annual report and keep yourself in good standing. Now, if you don't pay the registered agent, we have the ability to resign as agent. And so
what's in that annual report? Let's get to some of that, because that's to me. Okay, so I got to file an annual report. How difficult is that? What am I telling the state?
It's really a pretty simple process. It's really just to keep your entity in good standing with the Secretary of State. So once a year they ask you to file an annual report. They'll usually send you a notice so that it's due. You actually just maybe you fill in some stock information. It's different from state to state, but once you file that annual report and pay your fee, and that also differs from state to state, but that keeps your corporate status for the rest of the year.
So you're saying if somebody misses filing an annual report, they lose the protection of the corporate veil? Is that
Correct.
What you're saying?
That is correct. Right. Now they can get themselves back into good standing, but then they've got to usually pay penalties and fees, and so it's really important to keep your entity in good standing by filing that annual report once a year.
So you file that annual report, you're still in good standing, but if you miss filing the annual report, you get sued, and you go, oh, wait, I forgot to file my annual report. Can I go back and file my annual report now so I can protect myself? Or if the lawsuit got filed whenever I wasn't in good standing, am I in trouble?
Well, technically you could be. We are not attorneys, so we don't really want to give advice. Legally, we knew which way, but it is best to keep your entity in good standing. So, but
another piece that I thought was really interesting too is when you fall out of good standing with the state, is that your name then goes up basically for auction. So if somebody comes in and they like your name for your company, they can come in and register that name under yours, and you lose your state. You can go back, like they were saying, and pay your good standings after the fact, but if the name has been taken, then you're kind of...
So if somebody wanted to get the infamous name of Barber Financial Group as an example, right, and I failed to file my annual report, somebody could come in and take my name.
That's right.
Great. It's kind of like your domain name. You want to keep that protected as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing in keeping your corporation protected.
All right. So when would somebody want to get a registered agent involved? Is this only for somebody that's newly starting a corporation, or do you think it's better for somebody that's got a corporation, they've been running for years, maybe they're doing several $1 million a year in business, but they've been the registered agent themselves, or they've had maybe their secretary be the registered agent, or their CFO's their registered agent, or something like that. So where do you guys come in? Is it only at the beginning, or is it at any point?
Well, we kind of like to think of ourselves as the protector of a company from the start to the finish. So during the whole life cycle of that company, to when you're first forming it, filling out your incorporation papers, selecting a registered agent, filing it with the state, And then we help you with your annual report, and we help you throughout the entire process of that corporation. A lot of times what we do see, though, is that companies will start off, like in the state of Kansas, for instance. All of a sudden they're doing business in Nebraska. Then they want to go into Iowa. And so then what we'll do is we'll help them qualify that entity in those states as well. So basically we will help them set up in their home state, get them into other states. We help them maintain their corporate veil or their corporate status. And then if they decide to leave that state, then we help them get out of that state too.
So now you start bringing into play here some things that I think get pretty confusing. So in the electronic world that we live in today, this virtual world, especially in this, I could say post-COVID-19 era, but we're almost done with it, hopefully.
Right.
But, I think that a lot of people started doing a lot more business online.
Right.
And doing more virtual meetings and those types of things, marketing my goods and services of, say I'm making clothing or I'm doing something, and now I'm selling it on the internet. And I'm selling in different, I'm just using maybe my Instagram account and stuff's getting purchased in states of where I don't live, and that's not where my primary business is. What constitutes a person having business in another state or doing business in another state?
That's a good question. And, really it's a good rule of thumb. If you're conducting business within that state, you really should qualify or incorporate in that state to do business.
But the question is what qualifies as conducting business? If I'm sitting in my home and I'm, I'm making widgets and I'm marketing those on my Instagram accounts, and I got followers all over the world in all 50 states or whatever it is, do I have to then register in all those states because people in all those states are buying my widget that I'm making in my house?
Right. Well, a good rule of thumb is that, especially if you have an employee in another state, you definitely want to qualify to do business in that state. If you've got a store in another state, then you definitely want to qualify in that state to do business. If you're doing transactions, over the web and, like an Amazon type of thing, you not necessarily have to be qualified in that state. But it's also a good idea to, we've worked with attorneys and paralegals all the time. And again, we don't like to give legal advice,
right.
But we basically help them. Whatever the attorney says or paralegal says that they need to be qualified in that business, then we help them get into that state.
I was wondering if there was like some sort of a rule of thumb of like what a certain amount of your revenue, if it was coming from one of those states, then you've got to register in those states. But
it's really just as long as you're getting set up in identified as through the Secretary of State. So one of those things too, you can sell, on Facebook or Instagram. But if you don't set up an LLC or C Corp or S Corp or something like that, then you're open to liability and them coming and attacking all your personal assets, where that's the first kind of foremost spot is set up that LLC, get those protections in place. And then that's kind of where we come in and help you out, is once you get to that step.
So this is really fascinating. So Kent, how in the world did you think that, this is a business that I should start? You don't see a bunch of people out there running around saying, hey, I want to be your registered agent.
Yeah, I actually kind of fell into it. I'm an ag major by heart, and so I got involved, 20 years ago or so in the UCC business, which is Uniform Commercial Code. Company I was with was big into the registered agent part, and so we helped build that company up to where we were one of the top 3 registered agent corporate service providers in the country, and we sold that in 2011, and then I waited a couple years and decided, registered agent's really what I know, and so we went out and started this, and brought a few people with me from my old company, and we built a really nice business over the last few years.
That's good. So I guess something people got to be thinking about, okay, I'm going to hire this registered agent. They're not an attorney, but they're not free, right? How do you guys get paid?
Right, we pay or charge a fee per year per state. So one company in one state, we charge them X dollars for that. Then as they go into multiple states, we charge them a next fee on that for each additional state that they go into. And they pay that once a year. And then we allow them to get served twice in each state at no additional charge. So Like if you're
Make
in,
that sound like a good thing. Yeah. Hey, we'll let you
got
get
two
served.
freebies.
Yeah, we'll let you get served twice.
yeah, so if you get, if you're in 5 states, you get served 10 times, then we don't charge them extra.
So we're in a pretty litigious society, but I'd be curious, just because I don't know. I mean, how often are these companies that you're registered agents for getting sued? Are there some that never get sued, or are there some that get sued all the time? I mean, what's the scenario here?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Companies in very few states typically don't get served ever. Where we see a lot of service of process is with the retails, like the retail giants are crazy lawsuits. And we typically don't represent those. Not that we wouldn't take them. It's just a lot of lawsuits coming in where they have the slip and falls within the stores. That's where you see a lot of them.
Those the wage garnishments, that type.
And we see some with like medical companies that they tend to get served depending on what type of device they have. If there's a lot of litigation going on surrounding it, that'll pick up. We had, down in Oklahoma where they were doing all the drilling and everything, pre-COVID, I guess, but some of those, when all that started changing and they're not doing as much drilling down there, we saw a couple companies just not be able to pay their bills, and so then their creditors are coming after them and suing them, and that tends to end to a lot of litigation. So
interesting. Okay, so besides doing the annual report and receiving litigation, what else does the registered agent provide?
We also alert them to special tax notices that might come out from the state that a lot of times comes to the registered agent. There's any mail that's really like official state mail that you get on behalf of the state will come to the registered agent, and we forward that on to the client. And we log all the mail that comes in and track that, so if there's ever a question that they didn't get something, we have backup of it as well. We also scan all the service of process that we do receive, so it comes into our office. If it's our client, we accept it, we scan it, we notify the client that it's there, and then the client has to go out and acknowledge that they've received it.
So what happens on some of these things? I mean, I've never been served. Hopefully it never happens. But what happens if I got served and I missed it, or I had some official, stuff that was supposed to come to me and I missed it, and I miss a deadline, or I don't do something? What are the ramifications to the business owner?
Right. I mean, the main thing is that if you are served and you don't acknowledge it or you don't do anything with it, you can get a default judgment. So that's typically what will happen. We have had that's one thing we do is we handle litigation. So it's pretty much a zero error thing as part of our business. So, but yeah, it could be kind of crazy. It's intimidating, I think, especially when you've got a sheriff coming into your office and serving papers, and that's one thing some clients do not want, is having the sheriff come in, even if it's just a garnishment or something. You've got that intimidation of the sheriff coming in, and so he comes into our office all the time. It doesn't bother us, and we just accept it and send it on to the client.
Who are you here for? Good to see you again. Yep, one of those.
As long as he's not bringing me divorce papers, that's all.
Your landlord's got to be going, what are these guys doing here? The sheriff's always showing up.
Yeah.
So Universal Registered Agents is the company that you founded. You said you had another registered agent company that you sold.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a person want to go with Universal Registered Agents over just looking up? I'm sure you can Google registered agents in the state of Kansas or the state of Missouri or whatever state you live in. You're going to find a list of registered agents. Why Universal Registered Agents?
Well, I mean, the primary thing that we have is, as I just talked about, is service. And, we have zero tolerance on mishandled service of process. But the other thing is just the service that we offer, I believe, is superior to that of other agents, which means we pick up the phone when you call. We act on your behalf to receive process. It's usually to you within 10 minutes after we receive it. And then we keep in touch with our clients on a very regular basis. And that's the automated tax calendar that we have. When I was talking about the annual reports, we actually send them a notice 30 days out that their annual report is going to be due. And then we help them file it as well if they need it. So really, I think it's service is the main thing. We are new. We're still fairly entrepreneurial, and I think that leads us to to be better for our clients than what some of the old competitors that have been around for a lot of years are.
Okay,
So.
Interesting. Now, Patrick, when you're when you say you're in charge of partnership relationships and taking care of existing partnerships and forming new partnerships, in case there's somebody listening to our podcast that is in that financial world, they're in the legal world, talk to that person about what it is that partnership means and what you guys do.
Absolutely. So our big one is kind of reliability. That's one of our big focuses. We're reliable, and we take pride in the fact that when somebody calls us up, it's real people answering the phone. You're not going through call trees and trying to get to the right person and then ultimately being kind of left out to dry. So I think that's one of the big things. One of the others is just our expert level within the industry. We have through our team about 70 plus years of combined experience that kind of sets us apart. And then, like Kent was mentioning, my favorite thing is actually our online management portal. Really cool tool. It's built for both types of people out there. I kind of separated them into two buckets. The one that I don't want to remember another password. I just want everything kind of sent to me. We can handle that. Everything, like Kent was saying, is scanned in, sent through PDF format automatically to the correct correspondence. Or if it's somebody that likes to be more hands-on, they can dive into the portal. They can manage it all themselves. They can see their alerts, the upcoming filings that they might have, and kind of just have that all on hands-on approach. But the big partnership deal in working with us is probably through our revenue share program, which I think kind of sets us apart within the industry from what I'm learning, is we're not only going out there, providing that service, but we also have kind of a say in your business and making sure that you're successful as well.
Interesting. All right, so you guys talk to me about how many businesses are opening up, say a month around the country where they don't even know that this registered agent thing is necessary until they go to fill out the corporate paperwork, right, or register with the state.
That's generally where they call us, is because you talked about the number of them. There's been just a huge uptick in new business formation since COVID came out. I think as people were getting laid off, they decided to go out and form their own business. And so they get online, they find the incorporation papers for Kansas, for instance. They start filling it out, and then they say registered agent, and they're trying to do it themselves, and they've never heard of a registered agent. So they do Google registered agent, and hopefully we come up pretty high to the top, and then that's when they call us. And so we can either help them take it to the next step and file it for them, which would be done through one of our partners throughout the country, or we can just act as a registered agent. They can file it themselves and set up their company and move on from there.
It sounds like what you guys are really doing is you're providing that business owner the ability to focus on what they really know how to do, right?
Right.
And that's run a business.
Right.
And Patrick, you're talking about maybe these people want to get down into the weeds and they really want to look. I mean, that's I don't know a business owner that's what they like to do, right? They especially the entrepreneurial type business owners, right? They got other things to do. And either they're going to have to hire somebody to do that type of stuff as part of their bookkeeping or financial record reporting and those types of things, or have universal registered agents come in and do it for them.
Right. We're really there just to, we take care of the corporate maintenance for them. They can take care of running their business, and it works out well for both of us. So,
it's fascinating because when we first met. And we met virtually for the first time because we met during COVID, right? I'm like, what the heck are you guys doing? And then we start talking about it. I'm like, and I've been in the financial world for almost 35 years. And of course, I don't help people start businesses. That I leave that to the attorneys. But I have several entities. I don't know who my registered agent is. I don't know if it's my CFO or if it's obviously it's not me because I don't do any of the annual filings or any of that, but I'm gonna have to look into that for myself. And I think there's probably a lot of people who are going, maybe I better understand, what this is and how it is. So, on your website, what can people find there?
So on our website, we have options to see all of our different services. So we offer registered agent services, formations and corporation services, and then also our independent director services. You can also access the online portal that I was talking about, and then we also have kind of a FAQ and blog section. So if you want to go in, learn more about what a registered agent does, what are some of the benefits that we provide, and then also like that independent director piece I was talking about, go ahead and check it out and learn more.
All right, you'll find a link to the website for Universal Registered Agents in the show notes. And if you want to have a conversation, you guys charge anything if somebody wants to contact you and have a little conversation about what you do and think they might need your help?
No, we do it every day. So, they can either call our 800 number or go to the info at uragents.com and get us from there.
Sounds good. We'll find that link in the show notes. Guys, really appreciate you being here as part of the Guided Retirement Show. And I know it doesn't have a lot to do with retirement, but I wanted to have you guys on because I know that there's a lot of times that people will change they'll leave their main career, but they'll say, you know what, this has been a passion of mine. I want to do this and I want to do that. And there's a lot of people out there that are starting their second career, or it's their hobby career or whatever it is. And some of them wind up being more successful there than they were in their own profession as they were working.
All right.
That's right. You go out, focus on your passion, build that up. We'll handle the rest.
Perfect. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Thanks for joining us on the Guided Retirement Show. I enjoyed the conversation with Kent and Patrick. You can find a link to their website in the show notes. And if you have questions and would like to speak with one of our financial advisors, find that link in the show notes as well.
Starting your route to retirement.
Investment advisory services offered through Barber Financial Group and SEC Registered Investment Advisor.